Okay, so today we're doing a little bit of simulated back knee thrust. So for those of you that have your back knee thrust, just have them handy. For those of you that are going with a towel or a small blanket, the best way to fold this would be if you had, a larger blanket or a towel. Let's say that's the size of your towel. You'd fold it and then find whatever length you'd kind of like for it. And then from here, you can just make a gentle roll. So can everybody see that? I don't know if you saw I'm going to stand to do this again. So if it was open to towel size, you're going to fold it. Fold it to whatever length you're going to need, so you can have a little bit on the edge, or you can fold it even, whatever is going to work for you. And then wherever you get, you're just going to roll to whatever thickness that you feel that you need. So that we've got a little bit of a peekaboo edge on here. And if you need to unroll, it's easy to do that, or roll a little bit more, okay? So before we come down onto that, I'm going to invite you to come down to laying down on your back for a little bit of centering work. And as you get comfortable on your back, as you lay down, just notice if you need a little bit of support underneath your head. So if you lay down and your head drops back, then you need a little bit of support to bring your head into more neutral position. But if your chin drops down, then that means that you've got too much support behind you. So you might want to take away some support if you have. So just having this nice neutral spine, and then noticing as you lay down, perhaps maybe your legs are straight or bent, your choice, and what feels best for you. So maybe just checking in with both. Maybe if your legs are straight, you might want to bend them and see how that feels in through your back. And if that feels better, then you're welcome to keep your knees bent. But if it feels better that your legs are long, then straighten out your legs again. Excuse me. And once you decide where you're going to be, maybe take a couple of breaths in, some nice deep breath. And exhaling with that nice sigh out through the mouth. And notice the areas that perhaps release a little bit of stress and tension. And maybe notice the areas that you might be still holding on to some stress or tension. And then take another deep breath in and exhale with a nice sigh. Let go of anything that's not going to serve you today. And then perhaps before we get too deep into self-discovery, maybe setting a sankalpa or an intention for yourself moving forward today, whatever that might look like for you. Maybe it starts with an I am statement, or maybe it's just a resolution for today. Whatever you feel that you need to manifest more fully in your life today. And then take a nice deep breath in, and as you exhale with a nice sigh, let that intention go. Just release it out into the universe as a pure intention. Let go of any judgments around it. Let go of any attachments to it. So whatever control you think you might have over that manifestation, let that go. That intention will surface at exactly the right time that you feel that you need it. And then slowly start to become aware of the peaks and the valleys of your body. The domes, the hills, the domes and the valleys. Starting with the feet. And as you become aware of your feet, notice the arches or the domes of your feet. And the valley of your heel as it touches your mat or the floor. And then perhaps the dome of your ankle. The backs of your ankle. And the valley of your calf as it touches the floor. The dome of the backs of the knees. And the valley of the thighs. Notice how the thighs rise up at the top, moving into the hip sockets, and then there's another valley of the buttocks, the back of the hips. We notice that this peak at the tops of the hips is the peak of our tailbone curling up towards the sky. And it draws down into the back of the hips, touches the floor, and through the sacrum. It again rises up, this valley of the low back. This dome of the low back and into the valley of the thoracic, the mid back. Notice the widening in through the shoulder blades. The expansive breath. Moving into the dome of the back of the neck, how it curls up towards the sky. And the back of our head as it connects with the earth energy. And the crown of our head as it once again moves towards the upward action or the upward movement. Be aware of your fingers, palms of your hands, whether they're turned up or down. The backs of your hands in relation to the palms. Feeling the forearms where they connect with the floor, where they lift. The elbows and the elbow creases. The upper arm, the shoulders, and the domes of the armpits. And noticing in through the collarbones as they run from right to left, from shoulder to shoulder. And the curls and the domes in through the shoulders and the nest of the shoulders. The valley of the throat. And the hill of the chest. The valley of the abdomen as it draws down and through the belly button towards the floor. We feel this drawing down towards the earth and the lifting through the pubis bone. And the valleys of the quanes, in through our hips in the front as we end up with these little valleys as we connect with the legs. The hills of the upper thighs. Little valley before the kneecap, rising into the hill of the kneecap and the valley on the underside. We find this beautiful valley of the calves, where the shins, and the domes of the upper feet. Be aware of what your spine feels like. And all through these domes and peaks and valleys, notice perhaps where your breath flows the most. Where do you feel this movement of prana, of this energy? And take a nice deep breath in. And as you exhale with a nice sigh, let go of anything that's not going to serve you today. And start to bring a little bit of movement in through your toes and your fingers, giving them a little bit of a wiggle. And then allow for that movement to come into the wrists and the ankles by circling the hands or circling at the wrists and the ankles. Fingers move, the toes move. And then allowing for a little bit more movement in through maybe the elbows and circling at the elbows as we start to bend our knees and place our feet into the floor. And then let the arms come down along your side, wherever is comfortable. and start to windshield wiper the knees from right to left, starting small and moving into bigger movements. And as you start to move your knees from right to left, pay particular attention to our spine. As today we are articulating our vertebra. So just noticing any areas within the spine that might feel as though they have a little bit of tightness or soreness. And then allowing for those knees to drop a little bit further. So allowing maybe the knees to come all the way over into one side and noticing how that twist then lifts up a little bit more in the spine. And notice a little bit higher up what that might feel like in through perhaps the shoulder blades, the chest, the side ribs. Notice if one side feels a little tighter than the other, or if they feel the same. And then perhaps it might feel okay to incorporate the head. So as the knees go to one side, perhaps the head goes in the opposite direction. And we start to warm up a little bit more in through the shoulders and the neck. And we feel this rolling over the back of the head like a bowling ball rolling from one side to the other. Waking up a little bit of our chakras in the head. And noticing what you notice. There's no right or wrong. Just noticing how you feel. And then bring everything into the center. Take a pause here. Let everything reset. And then perhaps bringing both knees in towards your belly, giving a little bit of a hug, and perhaps rolling from side to side. And as you roll from side to side, make sure that you're getting in through the shoulders, the whole complete back. And again, notice what you notice. And then from here, coming into the center, placing your feet into the floor. And grabbing onto your back mitra or your blanket. Today I'm going to work with the blanket, but you're welcome to use your back mitra. So as we have our tube of our blanket or our towel, we want to allow for the blanket to come along our sides. So figure out where the lower part of your abdomen is, maybe the hip joints, and then allowing for the blanket to come between the feet so that the top of the blanket correlates with around the top of the sacrum. So for lack of better terminology, think of where the plumber's crack is and then place your hips down onto that blanket or that mitra. And you can adjust if it's too low or too high, wherever should feel fairly comfortable for you. So that the bottom of the blanket is coming between the legs like the tail of a dog. And then we place our feet into the floor and just hang out here. Feel as though there's a little bit of pressure here into the tailbone area. And if it's comfortable for you, you can bring the soles of your feet into the sides of the blanket and let the knees open up, but you don't have to. If it's more comfortable today and you don't have support for underneath, so quite often we'll take bricks or blocks and place them underneath the thighs for support, but if you don't have that today, then just leave your feet into the floor with the knees up towards the ceiling. That's okay too. And place your hands on your lower part of your abdomen. And just take a moment to feel any sensations that you feel in and around the tailbone area, your areas of elimination, and through the anus, in that area. And that tailbone area is very sensitive. This is where we house our root chakra, our Muladhara chakra. So we're stimulating a little bit of energy here. And as you inhale, imagine inhaling through the crown of your head, so the top of your head, and sending your breath all the way down your spine to the tailbone area. And as you exhale, allow for that breath to start at the tailbone and come all the way back up the body and out through the crown of the head. And just stay here with that imagery. Moving our feet into Supta Baddha Konasana, or our feet into the floor with just our knees bent. Focus on your breathing, and perhaps envisioning the color red in with your breath. So as you inhale, maybe inhale a stream of red light. And as you exhale, exhale a stream of red light from the tailbone. This is the color of the Muladhara chakra. And it's responsible for our sense of security and safety and stability in our lives. All right, if your knees are open, then take your hands underneath your thighs, bring your knees back up towards the ceiling, and just be here for the next couple of minutes with our knees up towards the ceiling, our feet into the floor, and the full weight of our buttocks down onto the blanket or the mitra. And walk your heels back a little bit towards your hips so that we can connect with all 10 toes, full circle of the heel, and press your weight into your feet a little bit. Lift the hips up and remove the towel, the blanket, or the back mitra, whichever you're using, the prop that you're using. Now leave your hips up for a moment. Just hover here like you're in a hammock. And breathe into any sensations that you feel. And then let the hips come down to the floor and straighten out both legs. Take a moment here just to observe. Notice any changes that you feel in through the pelvic floor, the areas of elimination, the backs of the hips a little bit, the tailbone area. Maybe even the legs. Notice any sensations that you might feel here. And then again, connecting with your breath as you breathe in and out. As you inhale, inhale that red light through the crown of your head, all the way down to your tailbone. And as you exhale, exhale that red light. Let it come all the way up your body and out through the top of your head. And cultivating stability, security, and safety. Feel that groundedness. And then slowly start to bend the right knee. Place the foot into the floor, the knee up towards the ceiling. And then bend the left knee and place the foot into the floor with the knee up towards the ceiling. And windshield wiper the knees, very minute, back and forth. Let everything reset and massage that lower part of the hips. And then let the knees come back into center. And from here, we'll walk the heels back as close as you can to the hips. We'll lift the hips up and around the same area that we placed the mitra before, or the blanket or the towel. We're going to place our hips down, but this time the blanket or the towel is horizontal. So if you think where your hip joints are, if you can feel around where your hip bones are in the front, that's about the height of what you want for the blanket or towel or mitra to be. And then just placing your hips or the back of your buttocks onto the blanket or the towel that's rolled up, or mitra. So if you were to find your joints and you kind of drew a line from the front of your body all the way down, you would feel where that place would be. So it's below the belly button. And if you're a woman, it's probably about the height of the ovaries, where the ovaries would be, or your bladder. And just take a moment to rest here. And pay particular attention to your neck and your shoulders. If you started out with a little bit of support underneath your head, notice how perhaps placing a little bit of height underneath your hips changes the orientation of your shoulders. So you may want to remove your blanket or your support if now your chin draws down in towards your chest. Making sure that we have a nice long spine. And then we start to focus in the lower part of the abdomen into our Swadisthana Chakra, which is our sacral chakra. And the gland that is associated with this chakra is actually our sexual organs. So our ovaries for women and our testes in men. So as you breathe, imagine the color of orange this time. And as you inhale, inhale orange through the crown of your head. Draw it all the way down your body into the lower part of the abdomen. And then as you exhale, drawing that from color orange from the lower part of the abdomen, drawing it all the way up and out through the crown of the head. Stay with that imagery. So this chakra is responsible for our sensuality and our sexuality, but it's also responsible for flexibility, not necessarily physical flexibility, but mental flexibility and emotional flexibility. It's the chakra that allows us to effectively deal with change, that kind of go with the flow attitude. So as you breathe in the color orange and exhale the color orange, imagine that you have these qualities of sensuality and sexuality and flexibility in your life, that you are cultivating this go with the flow attitude. That everything around you is illusion, it's Maya. And the mind will make up the story and be the driver. So if we have strong Swadhisthana, We can kind of go with the flow. It doesn't matter what the mind picks up. We know that it's just stuff. Now, if it's comfortable here for you, you can start to straighten out your legs one at a time. And then feel in through the hip flexors here. So we're starting to open up a little bit more in through the front of the body. So physically what this is doing is this is allowing for this stretch in through the hip flexors in the front as we draw into a little bit more of a back bend in through that lower part of our back. And it opens up in through the hips. So the hips are another area where we hold a lot of stress and tension. Just like our shoulders, and they're directly related. So when you're under a lot of stress, the shoulders will naturally curl forward, paired up with things like constantly driving or being on our cell phones or personal devices or eating or just sitting with bad posture. We kind of curl in a little bit, and our hips do the same thing. So this opens up and gives us a little bit of a stretch in through the hip flexor to combat the effects of stress a little bit here. All right, let's bend the right knee, place the foot into the floor. Then bend the left knee and place the foot into the floor. And as the feet come into the floor with the knees up towards the ceiling, press your weight into your feet, be nice and stable, and slowly lift up. And as we lift up, we remove our prop from underneath our hips and leave our hips up. And then just notice what you notice. Is there any type of energy that you might feel? Any sensations that you feel? Maybe you feel nothing at all, and that's okay. Just notice. And then placing the hips down and windshield wipering the knees back and forth a little bit. And loosening up a little bit more in focusing on above the belly button. So as we move our knees from right to left, notice the sides of your waist, the lower part of your rib cage, and perhaps in through a little bit of the sternum, but we're focusing in through now the Manipura chakra. And the Manipura chakra is your solar plex. So notice if you're tight here. And then allow for your knees to come back to the center. And feel where your lower ribs are. So think of your belly button. So find your belly button maybe, and then your sternum. Find your sternum. And in between there is your low ribs. So pretty much your waist above the belly button. And as we press our weight into our feet and lift our hips up, we'll take our prop, and again it goes sideways, so it's horizontal, and it comes into the lower part of the back ribs. So think of the top of the kidneys, and then we allow for the back to round over top and our hips come to the floor. So at this point, we're opening up a little bit more in through the solar plex, the lower part of the ribs. And then just allow, this can be quite tight depending on how deep or how big of a roll you have. And the back mitra can be quite hard as well. And remember that if you are on a back mitra, that you have the stripe up towards the ceiling. So we're having the stripe up, okay, towards the ceiling if you're on the back mitra. So make sure that you are on that prop properly. And then just breathe into the upper part of the belly, about where the diaphragm would be. Nice deep, even breaths here. Breathe into the side ribs and the waist. And breathe into the back, so wherever your back is landing on that prop. Feel that radiant breath. So our breath isn't moving in just one direction, it's radiating in all directions. And then start to incorporate in this radiating breath the color yellow. And our element here is fire. So you might even want to envision a yellow flame in through the upper part of your abdomen. And as you breathe in, it grows a little bigger. And as you exhale, the color or the heat intensifies. And our Manipura chakra, or our solar plex, is responsible for our personal power, of our courage and self-esteem and our self-worth. So feel as though you're cultivating a balance in this. We talk a lot about people that have a low self-esteem, but be mindful that you can be too powerful in here. That you can become so well versed in self that you overpower others. So allowing for a nice even balance here. A balance of courage and self-esteem to help us get through whatever life's challenges throws at us. Allow your breath to be even and soft. And then with knees bent, so if you've straightened out your legs, then start to bend your knees again and place your feet into the floor. And press your weight down and slowly start to curl that tailbone up and gently lift up off the prop, being very mindful as we go up, and remove it. And again, hover, leaving the hips up in this nice little hammock. And then let the hips come back down to the floor and straighten out your legs. And then notice what you notice. Notice any sensations that you feel, any openness, front and back, peaks and valleys. What's smoothed out? Does it still feel rough and tense? Then take a nice deep breath in. And exhale with a nice sigh and let go of anything that's not going to serve you today. Then bend the right knee and place the foot into the floor. And bend the left knee and place the foot into the floor. And windshield wiper the knees back and forth. And then from here, rolling over onto your side. So right or left, whichever you feel connected to, and coming right into a nice fetal position. So making sure that your head is supported. You can take your arm underneath you or have a blanket. But let the knees curl up towards the head and the head to curl down towards the knees. And take a moment just to breathe through your back body. Let that energy flow a little bit. And then take your top hand and press it into the floor and help yourself up to a seated position. And as you come up to a seated position, whatever that looks like for you, take a moment to notice where your sternum is. So this is where the ribs come around and then they kind of lift up here, and we've got this cartilage in through kind of the lower part of the rib cage. And then what you want to do is you want to follow that line along from the sternum around to the back. So whatever vertebra would be the corresponding. So if you were to drill a hole directly through the front here and it came out the back, this is where the bottom of your prop is going to be. So we're going back from now horizontal back to vertical. So if you are on a back mitra, stripe is up and we place it down. Okay, so your back will be along the bottom here. So if I was laying down, this is where it would be. And then my head would come onto the mitra here. Okay. If you are on a blanket, same thing. The bottom of the blanket is going to be where that hole is that you drilled. And then make sure that you've got enough blanket or towel that you've got your head to be able to rest on it. Okay, so I'm going to use the blanket today. And you may need to re-roll it to get a little bit of firmness or less, your choice. And then to come down onto this, we're just going to place it at the top of our mat and place it so that we've got a little bit of space here. And then turn your back towards the mitra or the blanket and start to lower down. And if you don't hit it the first time, then lift up and shimmy your body or change your body onto the prop. Make sure that the orientation of your head is still needing support. And if you have a blanket or a towel, you can just roll up the end a little bit to support a little bit more. And then take your arms away from your side and turn the palms up so that we feel that our shoulder blades are kind of wrapping around the towel or the back mitra. We feel this opening in through the heart center. And this can feel quite invasive. So give it about a minute, minute and a half. And if it hasn't released, then make it smaller. But if you start to feel that the sensations of discomfort start to subside a little bit, then I encourage you to stay with it. And you can test out whether you want your legs long or if you want your knees bent. It's completely a personal choice here. So you can try out 2 or both and see what works for you. Here we're moving into our Anahatasana chakra, our heart chakra. And our heart chakra is the color green. So again, as you inhale, allow for the color green to enter in through the crown of your head and travel down into the heart center, and allow for your heart center to expand with the color of green. And then as you exhale, that color green comes from the chest and up and out through the crown of the head. And here the qualities of the Anahatasana chakra are love and compassion and gratitude. So feel as though we are cultivating this gratitude, and that we move through our day today with an attitude of gratitude. And then bring your awareness up a little bit into the throat. So allowing for your awareness to come up the spine from the heart center up into the base of the throat. So somewhere in the center of the throat here. And we move into our Vishuddha chakra. And the color moves from green to turquoise. So that kind of color that's kind of a blue-green. Beautiful turquoise color. And again, breathing in through the crown of your head and allowing for the throat to open. That beautiful color of turquoise. And then as you exhale, we draw that energy from our throat chakra and we let it rise up through the head and out through the crown. Here, the Vishuddha chakra is our communication. It's our self-expression. And it's our truth. So it's truthfulness. So feel as though you are cultivating a little bit of truth and that you're speaking that truth. You're speaking truthfully about not only others, but yourself. That, hey, I need help today, or hey, I'm fine, or maybe not really fine. That we are communicating effectively and that we're being heard. And then draw that energy up into somewhere in the center of your head. So the height of your forehead, your brow, right in the middle of the forehead, in between the brows. And into the center of the head is your Ajna chakra. The color here is now an indigo. So we move from that turquoise color into more of a dark purple. Almost like a dark, starry night. Think of deep space. And this is where we house our intuition and our knowledge and wisdom. And also the discernment. So with discernment becomes our decision making. So feel as though you are cultivating this based on truth and knowledge. So whatever decisions that you make throughout life is based on this wisdom, this higher wisdom, this intuition. And then bring your awareness to the very crown of your head. And be aware of your Sahasrara. And here we envision either pure white light or shimmering gold, golden rays. This is our chakra of grace and purity. This is our connection with everything. As energetic beings, we are the same energy of everything around us. This is our connection to everything. So feel as though you are cultivating grace and purity in your life. That you have this connection to everything and everyone around you. And then roll a little bit to either right or left and remove your prop from behind you and come right back onto your back into your Shavasana. Supporting your head as you see fit, straightening out your legs, and just observing. Take a moment here to notice what is open and receptive, and what perhaps might need a little bit more love and attention today. Go back to any one of the chakras that you feel that you need to work on today, or a chakra that you felt connected to today, and cultivate that. Breathe into that center. Imagine that color, the qualities. Breathe. slowly start to allow a little bit of awareness back into your body and starting to wiggle your fingers, your toes. Finding that sense of your complete body lying on the floor. And when you're ready, bending your knees and placing your feet into the floor and just windshield wiping the knees back and forth again. Starting to wake your spine up, wake your senses back up. And when you are ready, you can roll over onto your side, either right or left, whichever you feel connected to. And come back into that fetal position. So allow for your head to be supported and allow for the head to curl down towards the knees and the knees to curl up towards the crown. Just rounding through your back and finding your breath again. Find that radiant breath breathing through the back of your body. Be open and receptive. And then when you are ready, helping yourself up to a nice, easy seated position. And as you come up to your easy seated position, just take a moment to lengthen in through the spine. Find that space once again. And bring your hands together at your heart center in Anjali Mudra. And allow for the thumbs to just gently come into the sternum here. Let the chin draw down. And then take a moment to think of something today that you're grateful for. And then share that gratitude with someone else and give thanks for that person. And then find one thing about yourself that you can be grateful for today. Let's close our practice today with lots of love and light and gratitude. Namaste.